What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. This past week, I got to go to a brand new park in the middle of Pennsylvania. This was Knoebels Amusement Resort and Campground. Though small in size, many historical coaster enthusiasts absolutely love Knoebels. Today, I'm going to tell you about my one-day visit, and I'll tell you what I thought about the park overall, how the coasters were, and if it was worth the hype. So today, I'm going to dive into Knoebels and see, is Knoebels worth the hype? Before I start the video, I just want to say a very few of my viewers are actually subscribed to me, only about a fifth of them. So, if you're that 4 out of the 5, definitely click the subscribe button and get caught up with my videos. So today, let's talk about Knoebels. I'm going to talk about multiple categories and split them into two. The first category is going to be park setting, and there are going to be a bunch of subcategories with that one. And then I'm going to talk about the rides and the coasters, and there will be subcategories for those too. So today, we are going to start off with the park setting. In this category, I'll be talking about the first impressions, walking in, the theming, the layout of the park, and the food. So talking about first impressions, this park is really in the middle of nowhere. I mean, driving to this park, you are really in the middle of the Pennsylvania mountains. You truly are in the middle of nowhere when you randomly stumble across this park, and it's crazy. It's also snuggled in between a few hills in the middle of Pennsylvania, and I have to say the environment of this park is beautiful. Especially when you're on the Sky Ride, I cannot stress this enough, take a ride on the Sky Ride. It's not thrilling, but it gives one heck of a view, and it really shows you how close to all these hills this park really is. It's not a terrain park by any means, but it's in the middle of all these hills and it looks absolutely beautiful. Walking in the park is open for everyone to enter. It's one of those pay-to-ride parks instead of those pay-to-enter parks. You go into the park, you can go in anywhere. This park doesn't have a real main entrance and it's not blocked off. You can get in from any direction anytime. It's honestly incredible how open this park is. People could also bring their dogs here, and I saw a lot more dogs than I thought. A lot of families bring their dogs, and due to there being a campground right next door, I saw families walking around with entire pizzas instead of just tiny pieces. I mean, what other park can you just see people carrying a whole pizza, a cooler, and walking their dog all at the same time? Well, if you want to do that, you can go to Knoebels. You can bring anything, and like I said, it is a part of a campground. Now, the theming is very notable at this park. It doesn't have a lot of theming, but the theming that it has really works for the park. It's a very old school vintage theme, and many people call it a time machine to the 1940s and 50s when it comes to parks. There are a lot of trees and bushes, and a lot of cool individual quirky details, like a building called the Loaf. I mean, this is so weird, it's so quirky, and it works so well. You really feel like you're being transported back into the 50s at this park, and I have to say, it works extremely well. The park looks extremely old, and you could tell that a park like this could never be built from the ground up today. The park's layout also really complements the park's theme. The layout is very simple. It's not like a major park where midways are extremely wide. It reminds me a lot of smaller parks like Waldemere and Family Kingdom, where there really aren't major midways, but instead just paths that wrap around flat rides, buildings, and existing roller coasters. And generally speaking, if you want to walk to the other side of the park, just keep walking in that general direction and you'll get there. It's very charming and very nice with the park. It definitely fits very well with the park. Most of the time, it's easy to get to coasters, but I do have to say there are a lot of quirky, narrow paths in this park that would not make sense at any newer park. For example, Twister's entrance. You have a narrow midway, and then there's this tiny little bridge that crosses a creek, and you would assume that doesn't really lead to anything. Granted, you cross this weird, sketchy bridge, and you're at Twister. It's a weird ride entrance, and this would not exist at any park today. Like I said, if there's a new major coaster, they're gonna make it big and grand, but at Knoebels, you could really walk anywhere and it would lead to a ride. This park is very family friendly, and there are a lot of family friendly things to do. Most of the games are just quarter games. You put in a few quarters, and the game starts right up. To wrap up this category, it's very unique, it's very fun, and you would definitely not see any of these methods practiced today. Finally, talking about the food is considered the best amusement park food in the world according to Amusement Today, And I'd have to say that might be a little bit of a stretch. Maybe really good food, and the park has an extremely good variety. I mean, if you want something and you're craving something, chances are the park has it. All the way from a simple burger to alligator bites, which were incredible by the way. But there are other parks that focus on food, like a lot of the Disney parks, and I feel like those could easily beat this any day of the week. Now let's get into the rides category. Now I'm going to talk about the rides and coasters at the park and tell you how they were. First off, the flat rides. The flat rides of this park are absolutely incredible. I mean, this park has one of the best flat ride collections I have ever seen. You see a lot of these parks like Cedar Point and Kings Island having a decent amount of flat rides. I mean, Knoebels has probably way more flat rides than both of those parks do. These rides are absolutely incredible. And I have to say that these flat rides are very unique and some of them extremely rare. They have a looper, a banyan curve coming in 2022, a rolo plane, a parachute drop, a trabant, and many more. I mean, these rides are just a few of the classic rides at this park. When it comes to newer flat rides, there is a Zamperla Power Surge and a Larson Drop Tower. These rides provide a good mix with the park and definitely provide a unique feel at a mostly old-fashioned place. I do have to say that something I love about this park is that a lot of the flat rides are interactive. A lot of these rides you could physically control while on the ride, and you don't see that at a lot of parks today. For example, the Flyers, the Loopers, the Rolloplane to a certain extent, and a boat ride I saw that was in between the Satellite and Cosmos curves, which was a powered boat ride. It wasn't tracked, it was completely powered by the person on the boat. And I do have to say, you never see stuff like that today. You really control a boat in a canal. And even though I didn't get to ride it, it looked like an absolute classic at the park. And if it didn't have a super long line, I would have definitely given it a shot. The first out of the three coasters I want to talk about that I've ridden is Phoenix, the PTC Woody relocated all the way from Texas in 1985 and first opening in 1947. So you'd assume this is a very rough coaster, right? Wrong. This coaster, surprisingly, is smooth as butter. I mean, this is smoother than most modern B&Ms I've ridden. If there's something this park does better than any other park I've ever been to, it is the tender love and care they give to their existing wooden coasters. I mean, why is this thing so smooth? They have to maintain this extremely well over the years, and I do have to say, it's absolutely incredible that a coaster that is over 70 years old is smoother than Mindblower, which is only a few years old. This ride is extremely comfy restraints. They have buzz bars that barely touch you or don't even touch you at all. And these buzz bars don't have any seatbelts, which does make one heck of a difference. And the airtime. Many people rave about the airtime, and I do have to say it did not disappoint. Some hills were a little disappointing with barely any airtime at all, but a few of these hills, including the final set of those airtime bumps, gave some of the most incredible ejector I've ever experienced in my life. There were times where my waist was touching the buzz bar and I was at the top of the train. It was absolutely incredible and it felt dangerous even though it was completely safe. Phoenix is a unique ride and I can't see how some people can rank it up there with the best wooden coasters on Earth just for many different reasons than they would with El Toro and Lightning Rod, which really isn't a wooden coaster anyways. This ride is extremely violent and it is not for the faint of heart. It is one of the most incredible and unique airtime machines out there due to how revealing the restraints are and, of course, the smoothness of the layout. Moving on to Twister, this coaster is also as smooth as butter. This coaster doesn't focus much on airtime, but instead amazing laterals, and it has an amazing setting. This ride is extremely fun. It's a lot less intense than Phoenix, but it is a lot longer, which gives it a very unique taste. I'd honestly say this is on par with Phoenix, but if I were to pick one of the two, it would probably be Phoenix, just because I prefer airtime over laterals. But this ride is absolutely insane laterals. This ride is, once again, extremely smooth. I cannot stress that enough. And for coasters that came out in 1999 and 1985, it's honestly surprising that these two wooden coasters are butter smooth. I'd say if you've ridden Mystic Timbers at Kings Island, it's probably as smooth as that ride. It's incredible. Impulse is definitely the third wheel out of the three. It is a steel coaster that has multiple inversions, and it is very similar to a Gerstlauer Eurofighter. It's not a Gerstlauer Eurofighter, it is a Zero Tower coaster, but whatever. It's a very fun inversion machine, it's extremely intense, and it is a well-needed steel coaster at the park. Out of the three, it is probably my least favorite, but that doesn't mean it's still an incredible ride. I mean, this ride has some incredible airtime at the top of that first drop, and definitely does not disappoint. It's a well-needed ride to finish out their lineup, and definitely a good ride to keep at this park. Finally, the verdict. Is Knoebels worth the hype? I would say yes, but in a way. This park is super unique and nothing like any major park. When you see people put it up there with Cedar Point, it's definitely great, but not for the same reasons as Cedar Point. If you want an all-out incredible coaster experience, go to Cedar Point, but if you expect that at Knoebels, you're going to be disappointed. If you want a fun, family-friendly park that's open for everyone, and you go to Cedar Point, you're going to be pretty disappointed, but if you go to Knoebels, you're going to absolutely love it. People like parks for different reasons, and when it comes to today's standards for parks, this is an extremely unique park that you don't see a lot anymore nowadays. I've heard that the New England parks are very similar, but I have not made it up there yet, but I do have to say Knoebels is absolutely worth the hype. And of course, Phoenix is also worth the hype. It's an incredible ride, maybe not the best Woody in the world, but pretty high up there. And it's run very well, extremely family friendly, and a fun day for everyone. Well, this was Cedar Flags. If you've been to this park, what do you think of it? Did you like it or were you disappointed? Let me know down in the comments below. This is Cedar Flags, and I will see you all later.